tractors are making now?
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Allen, your host of Inside Salem, and this is a show where we go behind the scenes of some of the hot topics of that you don't get the chance to follow up to in the local newspaper. We assembled a crew of Salem experts to help us sort through these things. Joining me today is T.C. Riley Goggin, political analyst.
Nice being here, Mike. Thank you.
Domingo Dominguez, former counselor at large.
Nice to be here, Mike. Thank you.
Tom Fury, former school committee member, former counselor at large, and current planning board member.
Thank you.
And Attorney Jim Fleming, former Ward 6 city councilor and former school committee member. Welcome all.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be here.
Okay. Some of the topics we're going to be talking about is a ton of jobs are going to be connected to the windmill assembly, which we're going to be doing here in Salem. We had a couple letters to the editor, which I want to expand upon. One was called 1 month of pain and 11 months of joy, and another one called having to do with the rotary at the end of Washington Street at the intersection of Bridge Street. The state mandate for multi-unit housing near MBTA areas that was put in by the state. A bunch of cities and towns have forming a lawsuit against that, saying they overreached themselves. So these are some of the things that we'll be talking about. So welcome all. First thing I'd like to get into, I'd like to get right into that. We had a fight here in Salem regarding ADUs, meaning accessory dwelling unit, and that is typically a unit that is added on to a single-family house in a residential zone single-family house area. This new state regulation, and it affects about half the cities and towns in Massachusetts, to my understanding, would...
780.
What's that?
780.
780
cities or towns.
Well, there's only 381 cities and towns.
There must be districts too.
Okay. So in any event, it affects about half of the cities and towns in Massachusetts, and it basically it states that on those communities they need to have more dense zoning, and in Salem we actually meet it because we have that was I forget what it was originally called, where the Parker Brothers is. There's 280 units right next to the parking garage, so we're good in terms of that. But for a lot of cities and towns, it's going to completely change the character of their area, and this is why they're fighting back. One of the things that is part of that ordinance is that they are going to be ADUs by right, accessory dwelling units, when anyone in a one single family zone can add on up to a 900 square foot accessory unit. How do we stand on any of that? I know, Tom, that you've lived in one of these. Do you think this goes a step too far, or? No,
I think it's a positive solution. One tool in the toolbox to do this. I lived in assisted living units in Witchcroft Heights and ranch-style homes below the main family. And it was really neat for my 5 foster sons. They really got a dose of what a family was. It was very reasonable. We kept care of the property when they were gone, maybe snow blowing, snowing, and stuff like that. And it was a win-win situation for at least my family, my 5 sons, when we lived together over the years. And it was really a family-style situation in the house itself, not added on as we talked about in the past.
Yeah.
So I think from a personal vantage point, it's one tool in the toolbox for solving the housing problem. I was a single parent with 1 or 2 children at any one time. It's very demanding. The rent throughout the city of Salem is up to $2,000, $3,000 per month. And it's intimidating, and it's almost overwhelming for myself
but
included.
the only thing is, you might as well take the zoning book and all the
Throw it
work
out
they've
the
done on
door.
zoning and throw it out the window.
Throw it out the door.
I mean, it's ridiculous what they think they're doing, you know?
You buy
And
a single-family house in
It is
residential
not solving
district,
the housing
and
shortage.
The next thing you know, you get 5 encampments all around you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Okay, let me do a follow-up question with you, Tom. Okay, so if like someone buys a house in Witchcraft Heights, which is a single-family neighborhood, and buys it, of course, because they want to have the less density and whatever, and all their neighbors all of a sudden decide they want to put in ADUs, don't you think it's unfair to that initial homeowner?
I think you're thinking as an epidemic running throughout all the wards, say, Witchcraft Heights, as you mentioned. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a spot situation here and there, different streets. My homes were, they wanted to stay in Salem, elderly. The children were all grown up. They had some extra room downstairs. I moved in. So it was a win-win situation, keeping those people in the owner-occupied houses, which they really want to be.
Well, I can see, and again, someone has a empty nest syndrome, and they had 3 or 4 kids, and they have extra space, and they say, well, you know what, blah blah blah. That's a little different than building on up to a 900 square foot addition. The house I live in, my house, is a little over 1,000 square feet. So that's like adding on what my house is. So I mean, again, it just seems like the idea of where someone, actually the house that I live in at one point in time had an in-law apartment in the downstairs. They had a separate entrance, and plumbing and stove and everything in the basement. The father lived down there, and so that house had that at that point in time, but was within the footprint. I just, as I say, it's a little different story than all of a sudden building a 900 square foot unit, which again is almost the size of my house, on a property in a single family neighborhood.
Like yours, I was in the footprint of the house itself, so it worked out really win-win for me. But to add on, it's a problem to the neighborhoods. So, but I don't think it would be epidemic. I think it would be just selective per street there. There wouldn't be an overwhelming epidemic of add-ons.
Yeah, but you can take a neighborhood that was single family housing and change it overnight. And right now, there used to be a time that empty syndrome, or maybe a couple are up in age and they decide they'll sell their house and move in with their children, and they have a big house. The one thing that these people can't do, they cannot add a kitchen and stove and everything when they move in with this house. They can add rooms, they can add bedrooms, they can add living rooms. That used to be the rule and regulations. Now that's just thrown out the wall.
But just to interrupt here, you could go to the city at that point in time and ask for permission to add a second unit in. That's always been allowed. And again, and I believe there were very few people who were turned down when they said, my parents are moving into, my house. They're selling their house someplace else and moving into my house, and we want to do a separate area where they have a separate thing. I just think that was pretty much always allowed.
No. You think you could add like an in-law apartment with ease? No. Recently, they relaxed that. They didn't allow that.
There's no such thing as an in-law apartment.
In addition to all of that, I think one of the big issues that this brings is that the developers, which are very hungry for money, they're looking for opportunities to continue to make more money. And the fact that it's been saying that it's going to be more affordable, that's not the reality, because when a developer take any property, they invest their money and price go up automatically. So we don't see how they're going to help the population that we are thinking that we're going to help by giving this ordinance a strong view. I remember that when I was a city councilor, I fight against for many, many reasons, but one of the big reasons was because I think that quality of life in any given neighborhood need to be maintained by giving the dense opportunity so people can actually live the way they choose to. When you don't have zoning that protect that, at the end of the day, many people are going to leave the city and quality of life going to be down in the bottom.
Okay.
Mayor Kim Driscoll, way back 12, 13 years ago, when St. Joseph's Church was there, and she wanted to put a senior center there, and also an apartment house or whatever else she wanted to do. And I can remember John Carr and a number of other people got on the bandwagon, justifiably so. And we had committees, we marched before City Hall and everything down the line. The density at that point was unbelievable. And there was a French family that owned almost a third of that given area. Right now, it's even more dense than it was before. The density of Salem, you said it, Mike. You have said it, Jim, the density.
I think we're mixing apples and oranges here. You started out talking about the MBTA ordinance of building units closer to transportation, and then you switched to
ADU.
EDU. We've complied probably either by chance or by luck. We've complied basically to that new ordinance, that MBTA ordinance, because we have built the entire length of Canal Street along the tracks. The entire length.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't see it, but when Bertini's gets in, especially, that whole thing dissolved.
Right.
We have no obligation to do anything whatsoever. But they didn't care about density at all.
Yeah.
They just said, okay, we know it's coming, or we think it's coming, so we'll allow development along the tracks.
Yeah. Well, again,
but MBTA, like you
excuse me
said,
one moment.
it came with conditions, and those conditions were if you were going to be within so many feet, so on and so forth, in your building for a train station. But also with that, they also came like the brick down in. Let's take that one for an example.
Yeah.
That's one of our newest ones.
Yeah.
And part of it is that they have to have the commercial on the first floor. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Yes, it is. I'll answer my own question. That's part of it. That's why all
And
of
what
these.
is it? It's empty still.
But
Beautiful building, it's empty still.
but the other thing too is that that's a first floor. I want someone to answer it for me. That at 75 North Street, and I got confused about that for a while. That's a little road to the right where O'Rourke is and a few other Michael Blyers and places like that. That they want to put in properties down there. And but on the first floor, because of the flooding, and I mean flooding, because I've already put my name in to ask if I could please have one of the first buildings so I can put in a canoe shop. But the flooding conditions down there, what they're going to do is have parking, put it on stilts and have parking. Is that first floor for parking? That's not a first floor, is it? What is it? Commercially, it's right there by the train station.
Yeah, I have no idea what they would be calling
What are
that.
you talking about?
And what I'm saying is they're not complying with the rules that go with the type of building they want to put
They're
in.
forcing
only-
everybody along in its corridor to build first floor retail, second and third floor housing.
Apartments.
You can't get any residential in the first floor along a
No, it was commercial. I know it's commercial on the
period.
first floor.
You can't get anything by it.
But nobody wants to move into those places.
That's right. You see them empty at all
Yeah,
these places.
well,
The
that's
reason
I
for that.
just said it earlier.
Yeah.
And that was part of the big fight and the tiff and everything we talked about the last show, right?
Yeah,
Down there
regarding
with the brick.
Bernadette. And again, people, the rental market for commercial space in Salem is pretty strong. It's quite strong. But it wasn't strong for 5,000 square foot spaces. What it's strong for is 1,500 square foot spaces.
Right.
So they were advised, I was told, again, I wasn't privy to any of it, but I was told by the Chamber of Commerce and the city, the city office recommended that the bricks owners on that first floor make say, 3 1,500 square foot places rather than one 5,000 square foot place. And they said, no, we want to have a high-end restaurant in there. Well, looks like they're getting their high-end restaurant, but the place sat empty for, what, 3 years, 2 years? How long have they been open?
At least 3. At least 3.
Yeah. So they've lost all that revenue so far. And what they sold.
What's going in now? A restaurant?
It's called Bernadette. It's the people who own the restaurant on Line Street, Settler, that small little restaurant. They're going to be opening up a high-end restaurant in there.
Yes.
Good size one, obviously.
Good.
Yeah, and they go to TIFF to do
Because
that.
if I paid a lot of money for and the bricks for condo, I wouldn't want a restaurant on the first floor.
Right, yeah.
know,
If you're
I
a
wouldn't-
resident, if you're a resident, you're because if it was a retail store, if it was 3 retail stores, the retail stores shut down maybe 9 o'clock at night.
9 o'clock and they're
but
done.
a restaurant, what do they do? They're open until 1 o'clock in
And
the
they're
morning.
going to
They
cook
can be.
in, and it's
Yeah.
see.
So it's
no
that
quality
was,
of life, even in a nice building like that.
Yeah, but the only thing is, when the brick built that, and they had the 5,000 square feet and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I say I don't know if it's 5,000 square
no,
feet or not.
but the-
It'd be
a
whatever
lot.
size it
It-
is,
it
but the
was- it
one
was-
spot rather than 3, say.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
So they could actually, if they said that they didn't put in all the amenities and electricity and all this stuff. I find that hard to believe. But
No, absolutely not. I
but-
mean, that would be normal.
but
In other words, if you're building anything, I mean, if you're building an apartment and you're building condos, say, a building with condos in it, and you're pre-selling them, and what you're doing, there's a certain percentage of them, you're going to leave somewhat blank because you would like to sell it to someone who says, oh yeah, I'd like to have, one big master bedroom and a small office. Or I'd like to have a master bedroom that's regular size and 2 small bedrooms. So you want to be able to be flexible. So you bring your electrical into the building, into there. But if someone has a retail store, they don't use a whole lot of electricity compared to what a restaurant would be using. I assume. I haven't had a restaurant, so I don't know that for sure. So you might have 100 amp service rather than 200 amp service, which was a lot more expensive than 100 amp service, I guess. I'm assuming. So you're going to put in the bare minimum, and that's going to be figured into the price of when you sell it. When I was at 99 Washington Street, at Red Lion Smoke Shop at 99 Washington Street, when we moved across the street to 94 Washington Street, and I bought a condo. The condo was sold to me blank, basically. It had, it was basically sold to me blank. I bought a shell, and then I designed it to fit my needs. Now I had the building owners do it to my needs, but I provided them with, the footprint that I wanted to have in there, or sort of the blueprint that I wanted to have in there of what I wanted, where, counter area, this and that, and they did that to my specs. Where if they had just built something and made it up into a retail store, it might have cost more money to redo it for Red Lion Smoke Shop specs. And so that's what, I'm sure they do it that way.
yes, but I'm sure, Mike, that you're saying what I already said the same way, but saying it differently. In other words, it's right in the immediate area, the air conditioning, their electrical, and if they're going to have gas power, so on and so forth. But we're saying the same thing.
Okay.
That, yeah, definitely. But they could have broken that up into, I'm not sure how many thousand square feet or what they have for the condos that they sell, because they're big. Has anyone been in that building?
I have not.
I haven't. Have you,
Bricks?
Domingo?
No, I haven't.
Bricks?
Have you ever been in that building?
Yes, I have. Recently, in the wintertime, we had a function there at the Bricks building, the community center, and it was the celebration of Salem being the 3rd city in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to go in favor of the MBTA housing. And of course, the Bricks is right up next to the MBTA station. So we asked the association that Diane O'Donnell, Hank O'Donnell, Scott Grover and his wife, a lot of retired people and professionals live there now in condominiums there right near Turner's restaurant. And we asked them, are you in favor of this restaurant going down below? Excited about it. Excited. And it's right on the MBTA route. And we're the 3rd city in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to go for this MBTA. And I'm on the planning board myself. And
We haven't gone for it. There's been no votes accepting it. We're just not fighting it.
we're in favor of it. It's for our best interest of the city of Salem.
Well, in other words, I think what Jim is saying, he says, the city council never said we're in favor of it. They just didn't fight it like these other people are.
Right.
Isn't that correct?
That's what's MBTA rule, state rule. The Attorney General is fighting this too. The cities and towns like Milton
Right, yeah.
are going against the situation. But look at some of the development going on now along the MBTA route. It's a part of this discussion we're having. Ferris Junkyard, all new. An old junkyard. It's all brand new, 240 units. Let's go see. St. James School is being renovated right now as we speak. St. James School itself is now being gutted inside for housing and apartments. We have Jerry's Army and Navy store, the old Jerry's on the corner of Essex Street and Summer Street. That's being renovated with 3 floors above it. So all along the MBTA route, Bettini's included, 240 units there, the old Bettini's on Canal and Jefferson Avenue, all along that. Housing.
What,
All the way
always
to Salem State College.
housing, and our governor talks about the great job that Lieutenant Governor has done about setting up housing here in the city of Salem.
Yes, she has.
If you,
She hasn't built a
no,
thing.
she hasn't.
No,
No, she
no,
They
hasn't.
didn't
Mayor.
build this thing.
No mayor in my 34 years in public office has done that. If you look back at Harrington, I've served with those mayors, as you have too. They haven't built. Don't blame Driscoll. Look back
hey,
at
Tom,
the ones
you know
I
what?
served.
Tom.
Levesque didn't do it. Yusevich didn't do it.
Beck built some.
Salvo didn't do it.
Tom.
Name the last state housing was done. Charter Street. Charter Street. Not too far away from
Oh,
us.
no, up and
Tom,
down.
Tom,
up
I want to know one
Highland
thing.
Avenue.
Tom,
Don't
could
either,
you go out and rent
Farrell
these
Way.
apartments?
Farrell Way is brand spanking new in those terms.
That
Okay.
wasn't city. That was
But,
state.
but the problem is, again,
was not city.
all this housing that was built, not one unit, I mean, other than the bare minimal of, where they have to put in a couple of low-income places in it. It's
They're
all
they're
been market
luxury.
rate
It's all
and very
market
high
rate.
They're
market rate.
luxury.
Market rate.
Yeah.
Even that one,
Luxury apartments.
even the one in St. Joseph's that you mentioned, TC, St. Joseph's, the old St. Joseph's School, church itself, when that was finally finished, say there was 100 units in that place, 500 people applied for it. They will be all filled in a matter of time.
Oh,
because
but
of
the only
housing
thing is
crunch
they
now.
were subsidized. They were subsidized in there. The
Firefighters,
vouchers.
teachers wanted that place.
But there is no place here in the city of Salem for people who are at really and truly need low income
Those
housing.
people were in tents
They don't care. They
down
don't
in
want
back of
granite.
Wendy's.
They don't want granite
Yeah.
counters.
Yeah.
They want enough bedrooms for their kids. They want enough things, to serve them as a family.
That's
but
what the
these luxury
MBTA is trying to do.
apartments.
The MBTA is trying to do that.
Yeah.
Tom, do you live in a brand new apartment where you are?
I live in an owner-occupied house, three units. And I'm very lucky, very pleased.
Okay, so the thing is this, I mean, what TC is pointing out is, if someone living in Salem, they're either, for the most part, they're paying a very top dollar for rent,
Yes, they are.
or their rent is being subsidized.
That's right.
There's no thing with a working person, can come into Salem and find something to live in. Everything that's been built in the past 20 years has been basically high end. With obviously they're mandated to have 2 units here, 1 unit here, 3 units here of low income housing, but it is basically built as high end places like Bricks. I mean, Bricks is a very expensive unit. But okay, well.
The population of Salem is increasing up to 44,000+ people. So you get people like Hank O'Donnell, Diane O'Donnell, Scott Grover, his wife, different families moving in,
and the reason why
staying in Salem.
Again, but how does building that, if we're increasing the population, how does the building that help the current Salem resident? It doesn't. We're just bringing in more people.
Increases density all the way over this.
Yeah, I mean,
over the
again,
city.
you're talking about
density.
240 units at Ferris, 240 units at Bertini.
Yes.
That's 500
Yes.
units right there.
Talk
Those
to
just
somebody
the
who
thing.
lives
What's
down-
at North Street, 75 North Street? How many units were supposed to be there?
About 75.
75 there? Okay. And so now, and we also have, and I'm going to get onto that in a moment, the Federal Street Crescent Lot thing, that's 100 and something. I mean, so those 4 projects are adding 800 units to the city of Salem.
But look at the thriving downtown, which you were part of with your business, Mike's
Yeah.
Smoke Shop. Downtown Salem,
Yeah.
a thriving epicenter of Salem, with people living in, wanting to live in Salem.
Yeah.
Like the Hank O'Donnells, Dino O'Donnells, and
Yeah.
Scott Grovers in the Bricks building that you are concerned
but
about.
it's a double-edged sword though, because what happens is, like in the case of my business, is that a lot of my regular customers said, I can't find a place to park. And there's no point in coming here anymore.
Too much
And they
traffic
find
getting
another
here in the
spot.
first
Yeah,
place.
right. Too much traffic to get here in the first place, and I can't find a place to park when I get here. So, so I had a little bit of density, but I lost more of my regular customers because of the difficulty in parking and density. So it didn't help me. It helps obviously it helps restaurants, and you can see that's why there's so many restaurants around. Okay, but next topic I want to move on to, Tent City. City of Salem has had second passage of an ordinance to, I guess, dismantle Tent City. Anyone have anything to say about that?
There's some silly conditions that they put on to make it somewhat acceptable. They can't tell, they have to store their people's belongings for a couple of weeks.
I thought it was 72 hours.
Well, no, I think they lengthened it.
Oh, they're going to lengthen that? Okay.
But anyways, it still doesn't. It doesn't give them an alternative place to go.
Yeah.
I mean, where are they going to go?
Okay.
I think they're going to go someplace else in Salem. I think so. I don't think they're going to leave. Yeah.
Well, the big thing is, Jim, stop and think of what you're saying and what we've just been talking about and what you've been saying, Tom, about, Mayor Driscoll and all that she did. And yet here we are going to another topic where we're talking about people living in tents. And we have more here in our city of Salem than they have in the other surrounding communities. They come here because the city of Salem, has been very, very good, right?
Yeah, we enabled them.
But
They're not
the
setting up
idea-
tents in Peabody and Danvers.
No.
Yeah, but,
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
but
Yes,
too
they are.
many people,
The tents
too
being
many
set
people.
up
Sure they are.
Where?
But too many
DJs,
people right now.
right behind the movie place. Danvers has problems with it. All over the city, all over the North Shore. Has tents
I haven't seen
in
that.
their-
I'll have to go
but-
see that.
Well, they're not, Salem News is not covering them as well as they should. But behind BJ's in Danvers, Endicott Street, different parts of Danvers, people.
I go to
major problems,
BJ's
major.
once a week, and I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I don't go there once a week, but I
You're not
probably go there
looking
twice a
closely.
month, and I've never seen them. I will
I'll
take
go
a
look
look for
next
them.
time.
Yeah, but
Tom, you of all people know what it is to face different things and know that you had to live by a budget. You also worked in jobs, service for the people.
Thank you.
So you never made $1 million a year. You know what it is, and yet you sit on the planning board and you listen to all of these things with the attorneys coming in, left and right, high-ended attorneys, right, building these new things out there. How often do you stand up and say, when do you speak out for the little people? When do you tell them, we've done nothing for the seniors
I
in
voted
the city?
against the Patinis project. I voted against the project where the United
I
Foot
want to
is.
see. I want to see one thing that you have done for
Well,
the seniors and for the veterans.
that's sort of unfair. As one member of the planning board, he can't do anything. All he
But
can
I'm
do is
saying-
vote against something.
But he
that's
has
it.
no.
agree.
Tom will tell you. Tom has certain things that he holds on to. In other words,
Thank you.
HMA down there. He looked at that and he brings it up all the time. He also has about the David Sweets' property on the corner of Bridge Street, and that's a big empty lot that something should be done with it.
Mr. Chris.
And Mayor Cam Driscoll should have forced the issue.
But I see homelessness with a human face. My family was destroyed in a major situation, and we went into foster care, and it was a very challenging. So I see the plight of the homeless with a human face, and you can't just solve it by removing tents from right behind our building right now as we're speaking. It's a really, I think, even give credit to Kim Driscoll. In the last couple of years of her administration, she had a housing task force, a homeless task force, including Salem State College, the different community infrastructure groups, the social agencies, the shelter itself there in Salem, which Salem has a challenging problem with the increase. So she was talking about housing in her administration with Domingo on the city council and I,
Yes.
we had a housing task force, even then. Now the new mayor is trying to address that problem. It's a city problem, it's a regional problem. I see it as a human face.
Okay, so here it is. The state of Massachusetts is spending, I think in the past budget, basically $1 billion, billion with a B, dollars on illegal immigration,
Yes.
which has exploded over the past 3.5 years. Doesn't it seem make more sense that we limit the flow at the border coming in and use that $1 billion to spend on the homeless population, which until we didn't do that 3.5 years ago when we didn't have this explosion of a thing. We didn't have that money theoretically. All of a sudden we have that money. Why isn't that being spent on our homeless problem? Our veterans who are homeless, our things is homeless. And the other thing is this, we give these people, at the tent city, I assume the bulk of them are getting like disability or something like that, some sort of income like that. And they're not getting any services. We used to have, they have substance abuse problems. These are people that, we closed all the places like Danvers State Hospital. Some of these people are not, need a supervised existence. We can't just say, okay, we're fine, we're going to close up these tents and move them someplace else, but we can't just let anyone set up a tent any place they want. I don't think. Jim.
What the Mayor Driscoll did not do is to go to the various planning boards of appeal, and say, hold it. Don't let any of these big developments in until we have an adequate supply for affordable housing. She never did that, never. All she wanted is, she was guided by, and I would guess that the rhetoric was she needed $1 million extra a year in new taxes in order to run the city. That's what her guiding principle was, not who cares about poor people. And I think she should have gone to the boards, should have been very, very aware of what kind of person she's going to put on the boards. Will they protect little people? And I don't think she did. That's where my problem is with the mayor.
In her 17 years as mayor, she's
I was
appointed
there,
most of
Tom.
these boards.
I was
there
next,
too, yeah.
I sat next to her for those 17 years.
I told at the last show we were here, and I said the same thing. I'll say it again. Tom is just going to, for the day, forever and ever, he's going to be Kim Driscoll's cheerleader. And
Well, that's
if
fine.
that's the role he wants to
I
play,
don't
good
mind.
luck
I
to
don't
him.
mind. But you can't say she was all good. She didn't do anything for people without houses.
That's right.
Period.
That's a collaborative effort between the city council,
And I'll pass the buck.
ADUs
I'll
and
pass
all
the
these
buck.
things.
The buck always stops at the top. The buck at the top
Right.
stops
In other words-
at the mayor's office.
There's no
all
line
these
in
people
between.
on these boards, particularly when someone was in there as long as she was, all these people on the boards were appointed by her. Therefore, you're appointing people that that she says, I think you'd be good on this board. My vision for the city is such and such. Do you agree with that vision? And if the person says no, then they say, well, I'm not going to appoint you to the board. I mean, she's not going to appoint, someone to a board that doesn't agree with her position. That doesn't mean they're going to vote exactly the way that she wants all the time, but that's generally speaking. And no mayor would do that, or no governor, or no president, whatever. You're going to appoint people that have the same general philosophy as you do.
You served on the Conservation Commission.
Right, under
Thank you very
Yusevich, yeah. And but the thing is this, as Jim said, she could have spoken at a planning board meeting when we talked about when the city was talking about say the Crescent Lot thing, and saying, well, wait a second, we're not that thrilled with this thing unless there's much more low-income housing in it, or the project for at Bertini's, although that is actually after her. But Ferris wasn't after her. No. Ferris came up before her, so before she left. So the thing is this, in all the years that she was on there, we basically, as I said, we basically have not added in any, low income housing.
Mike, add to your list here. And the one that I look at that makes me very unhappy is the little brick houses down there, Fort Lee Terrace, where, they were happy with the 2 or 3 or 4 little apartments in the little brick houses. And when they said they're going to tear down those and relocate these people from a place that they loved, I couldn't understand why. And they said that the maintenance would have been far exceeding what was needed. That meant that all these years, 20, 25 years, nothing was done for these people down there. The seniors who live there. These are seniors. They weren't building new ones, but they weren't even taking care of what other mayors had built. That's sad. That's very sad. Okay. Now where are they going to live? A developer's going to put a high-rise, the same as what they did over there on Proctor Street, Cement City. Ridiculous.
Okay, I want to go on to another topic here. The city of Peabody, I guess at the beginning of the school year, put cameras on 10 of their buses. And they have, up until now, thereabouts, they have 3,500, that's 3,500 traffic violations of people going around the bus when the bus was stopped with their warning signs on. And so there's talk that they're going to the state to request, I guess, local powers to do camera enforcement regarding this, where the camera that took the picture that said this vehicle went around us is going to take a picture of the license plate, and we're going to send that person a ticket. I assume that's what they mean. Jim, you've talked about these type of things in the past.
The danger there is that the supervision has to come into the second step. The second step is, okay, now was that a violation or not? Just because the camera caught something, does that necessarily mean it was a violation? For example, on a bus, on a school bus, was the stop sign out?
Yeah.
In these pictures, you can't tell that. You have to have a witness saying that the stop sign was out when this.
But what if they put the camera, here it is, against the bus, so the camera is taking a picture of the bus, and then when it flips out, that's the only time that it can be.
It might be an improvement of what they're doing, because they've already, in the communities that they've serviced, I think the biggest one is Pittsburgh. The biggest problem is determining whether or not it really is a fair situation to the driver.
Okay.
The 3 of us served on the school committee,
yeah,
and we saw this in our time, and it's a major problem. All you need is one casualty in the city of Salem.
Correct.
One death, one injury, and that's totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I'm glad Peabody is stepping up, and I hope Salem steps up too with more and more cameras and surveillance to cut this back. With too many people going around these buses without a blink of an eye. All it takes is one casualty in the city of Salem, and it'll be a tragedy for so many.
Okay.
Well, they said what they want to do is hit them in the pocketbook. And then the same thing as you're saying there, Tom, and we all know. They said they'll wait till some child is killed and then they'll do something about it. What will they do if a child is killed that they can't do now, right? What other thing can they do? In other words, let's do it now before it happens.
Well, this is sort of the idea, I think, is that the fact if they started giving tickets out, hitting people in the wallet, as you say, then that would, people would pay more attention to it.
The police have a similar programs on putting some camera for speeding. And I think if we integrate both, can be even better, because that help get to the point of Jim on getting the legality of any given point. So that way the police can see it from the point of view of addressing any bad doing in traffic, but also the school system will see and will alleviate the situation. So if they combine both programs, I think would be better. That's an opinion that I have.
But I also think, I agree with you, Bingo, but I also agree that hitting in the pocketbook, it's only money. But if you were to say to somebody, we have proof definitely you passed the school bus, the stop signs was down and everything down the line. Your license is now going to be suspended for 10 days or 15 days. And the next time it would be for 30
Okay.
days. You suspend that license, take it away from them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, next topic I want to talk to is there was an editorial in Salem News, and in it talked about the intersection at the end of Washington Street, at Bridge Street, by the MBTA garage. And I guess there's something possibly before the planning board to do away with what the person referred to as a slip lane, where, when you're on Bridge Street and you're taking a right onto Washington Street, you don't need to, the street lights don't apply
You don't have
to
to
you.
have a
Right,
green light.
the street lights aren't applying to you because it's a lane before that.
You have to stop, but then you go.
Yeah. So the thing is this: what they said is that there's something coming, a request, or someone's talking about giving that land to the development on Federal Street, with those two buildings plus the Crescent lot, that development, and just having that slip lane be gone. Now, in this letter, it also said that the Mass Department of Transportation, Mass DOT, preferred there be a roundabout there. Now, if memory serves me, there was a roundabout there not that long ago.
That's right.
Certainly was.
Yeah, and just a little history, and this is always sort of, people who watch this show hear me rail on about wasted government spending. The city of Salem had Riley Plaza, sort of a rotary. This is where, in front of the post office, there's sort of a rotary there around a parking lot, and it was a high accident spot. And so because of it, we spent, with grants from the federal government, the state government, and local government, we spent a ton of money redesigning it into what it is now, which I think is a bottleneck in the city of Salem for traffic. So I don't think traffic flows as well there. But because of the fact that we lost, 150 parking spaces out of that middle area of the rotary inside of it, because it was a sort of a strange rotary, we spent an extra $18 million or whatever it is building the South Harbor garage to make up for that parking. Now, if you take a step back from those numbers of all the accidents were there, we have a rotary with a newsstand in the middle of a rotary. And Salem News used to come out at noontime. Sign, Salem News is in. You'd see cars go, zoom, zoom. They'd just go with three, Salem News is in, let me grab it. And they'd be stopping in the middle of a rotary to do that. Now, when they did away with that rotary, I heard, and I don't know if the number is accurate, that they paid this person $50,000 to move his stand to a different location. Well, my argument was we could have saved ourselves $30 million by giving this guy 50 grand, maybe even 100 grand, sweeten it, to move the stand to begin with. And then we wouldn't have had to rebuild Riley Plaza. We wouldn't have the South Harbor parking garage, which makes up for the spaces we lost in the Riley Plaza area. And the traffic would flow better. So the thing is this, here it is, now we have a rotary. And someone comes along at the corner of Bridge and Washington, getting back to that. We have that rotary. And someone comes along and says, wait a second, it should be no rotary here. So we do no rotary. And now someone else comes along and says, wait a second, we should be a rotary there. So we're going to spend probably $2 million to put a rotary there. It's just such a waste.
All common sense. They had to make common sense in the planning, especially in traffic, for a long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is why I applaud, getting back to our first topic, I applaud these cities and towns that are fighting the state mandates on that. And we have, it's very interesting how the state has said, we're going to withhold money to those cities and towns that don't follow this mandate. But those same politicians that are withholding money now screamed bloody murder when, under a previous presidential administration, the president said those people who do not, those cities and towns who do not honor the federal regulations and form sanctuary cities, we're going to withhold their money from them. That somehow that is different than what the governor is doing now. I just think, I applaud these cities and towns. I hope they are successful, but we'll see what happens with that.
Well, the only thing is, the city of Salem, every mandate that comes out or down our way is grabbed hold of here in the city of Salem. And our taxes are probably still one of the highest around of any communities.
Yes, we have been for a while.
Marblehead, they always said, we don't want it, we'll pay higher taxes because we don't have commercial, we don't want it. I think that people should have community and they should have a right to live. That's what you call is a democracy.
The old Riley Plaza used to be like the Indianapolis 500, going around in circles and circles, and you get lost in the situation. Let's give credit to T.C. Riley's family.
Yeah.
It's named after T.C. Riley's family, the Riley Plaza, which is a legacy to be very proud of from the Spanish-American War, a family member.
It has nothing to do with the planning. He was a hero. He was a war hero, period.
They just gave him a name.
He gave the place a name. It has nothing to do with planning the stupid thing.
But it was before that time. It was the Indianapolis 500. If you may remember, it was. It was a little bit.
Well, I mean, again, if you took out that rotary, took out that newsstand, I tend to think that there would be very little accidents. With a newsstand in there, the accidents were, high, but again, they were all fender benders.
I think the city council should really join in that parking situation. That's their domain, the city council.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't be like a planning board, a non-elected planning board.
They gave it away to the parking
Yeah, that's
commission.
basically one of the things that happened that I criticized them too much because the former mayor took away some of the power of the city council by giving away to the traffic commission, you name it. So in a way, I think that the city council body at that point was left out. And that's many things happen.
Actually, again, here we go.
Yep.
The thing is this, the city council purposely dealt themselves out because they don't want to deal with anything controversial. So if the parking commission decides to put in parking meters at some spot, the city council can say, hey, don't blame me. And that's why the Congress starts up all these things. Oh, let's have an agency over here that'll handle this. That way we can wash our hand of it. And this is what government does. This is what the only thing they're good at, is laying blame someplace else.
Yeah, I understand that part, Mike, but I think one thing that happened previously is that our former mayor wanted to keep control of so many things that happened that eventually, if anyone opposed, because I understand when I was in the city council in my first term, we have 4 former mayor and former councillor who not agree in everything that is happening. And when there is some controversy, some no to things that the former mayor wanted to see, she find a way to anyway deal with, and that's one of the ways she find it by forming a commission that actually will deal with the issue that she wanted to. Yes, basically what you're just saying, the vision. Her vision was different from those 4 or 5 former city councilors, and that's creating issues. So that's why it was took it away, because there's no way that can pass. I was one of the, I say one of the city council that I apply common sense, and I disagree many things that happened because I thought that many things that happened there was not really attending the need of the people, the little people. People that I represent, people that I think at the end, they had to move away now because they cannot afford an apartments here. And in a way, they was used to be just a name for that group of people, but at the end of the day, it was nothing for them. So they cannot really continue to live in the great city of Salem. So I was confronting that, and my voting record is, stand with many of the thing that happened at that moment that was not really, to me, wasn't making any sense based on the fact, and I think Jim mentioned that, you know, we say we're creating a lot of housing, but none of the housing really was for the low people.
Right,
The
yeah.
housing are for the, you know, people that can afford.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is, you know, all the boards that we have, all the things that go through, I'm sure that somewhere down the line, whether it be the zoning board or the conservation or the planning board or whatever, they're told you be very, very careful if you and don't refuse this going in, because with the attorneys that we have, and we've got some high-powered attorneys here in the city of Salem making pretty good sums of money for what they're doing. The city of Salem does not want to be hauled into court because it would be very, very expensive. In other words, you have something going on right now down on East Collins Street. And with that clinic that they want to put up in a flood zone, but they're hiding behind the Dover. Does anyone here know what the Dover is?
No, I don't.
No one knows what the Dover is?
I don't know.
In other words, the Dover is, you know, it's almost like religious or hospitals or this or that. You don't have to answer to anybody because you are doing this
Well,
service.
I've never heard it called Dover. I ran into the problem
Yep.
where I opposed extension of nursing school, nursing school up by
Yep.
Salem Hospital, and I said they can't because it's an education. Your whole premise is wrong. You cannot oppose the expansion of a school.
Right, and I know that when I was on the Conservation Committee, one of the projects that came on was, I think, Middle Campus, what was Middle Campus, for Salem State College at the time. And the neighbors were up in arms over it, and they wanted us to stop it. And because none of the other boards had any say. We were the only board with any say on it. But what they, and I guess we could have, stopped it, but, we would have lost in court because, what our purview was, they weren't violating. I mean, within, building within the wetland and all this type of stuff, a shoreline, et cetera. I mean, they were following the proper procedure for doing that. So there was nothing that we could really do for that. And that's, but as I say, a lot of the local residents came, before us, trying to get us to stop it because of this and that, whatever. And we said that, that's not something we can deal with. I mean, that's not our thing. And but they said, well, we can't go to the planning board because the planning board doesn't have anything. We can't go to the housing because they don't blah blah blah. So that, and oftentimes the Conservation Commission is the only board that has any sort of authority over that. But we have limited authority.
All right, the Conservation Commission right now, on this one that I mentioned down there in East Collins, where he wants to put a clinic up there for addicts, is right across from Scott Hiltunen, who has worked feverishly to try and keep the neighborhood a neighborhood and not allow this man to do. He's getting even with the neighborhood because he didn't get what he wanted in the beginning.
15 or 20 condos.
So he found another way, the Dover, to use and to put up this type of clinic. But the conservation right now, in other words, what is it going to take? Because the way he has built this, the land is now tilted so that everything is going over into his property. I mean, it's conservation, should they say, okay, let's take this guy to court?
Again, I don't know anything about it, so I can't answer.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we've had.
Well, maybe if you look into it next time, we can talk about it because it's something that's going on here in Salem.
I was on Conservation Commission over 20 years ago, so a lot of the regulations have changed. Almost nothing of what I was dealing with is what there is now. So it's not like I have any insight into that.
But when you were on it, if they said it was a floodplain, did you say, well, they can't build? And
No,
that ended it.
we didn't. That did not.
No, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there's one thing I would like to say. Can I just mention before we
Okay, because we only have a couple minutes left here.
I just wanted to say about the senior day, June 1st. I mentioned it last meeting that we had June 1st, Forest River, from 11 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. The tickets are out there at the Community Life Center, and they are $5. It is a cookout and a nice barbecue and everything. And it will be a great day for the seniors and anyone else who wants to attend. But call, 744-0924.
So 978-744-0924.
Yes,
And
right.
that's regarding
The senior day, June 1st.
June 1st, which is a Saturday.
And the other thing is, if you need transportation, call ahead so that your transportation will be there for you.
Okay.
I have another
Thank you.
point. I'd
Sure.
like, if anybody knows, does anybody know what the schedule for the celebration of Memorial Day is?
No.
Where and when? Neither
Celebration of what, Jim?
All
one.
right.
Memorial Day.
Memorial
Okay.
Day.
Oh, I don't know.
Usually
I've
we know
heard
by now,
anything.
don't we?
Right.
Do you know?
Have had a hint that it's going to be moved to Orange Street and Larchmont Road.
Oh, and why?
Monday, Memorial Day, 11 a.m. at Orange Street and right around there, they're
You're
redoing.
right.
They're dedicating
Okay.
a square.
Now,
Voice
what about the
Brooks
cemetery?
Massage.
What about the?
Go ahead.
So where is
I'm done with it. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm
No,
mad.
because
I'm mad.
I agree, because for years, a beautiful ceremony that we had,
cemetery.
I'm not knocking what they do for veterans. I'm all for it. But this one day, it is the most beautiful ceremony that they have at Green Lawn Cemetery.
These are veterans who gave the
That's
ultimate,
yes.
ultimate price.
Yep.
And why are we moving it? And where are we moving it to?
Dedicate some square. We did that 2 years ago, and now we're doing it again.
I thought they had learned their lesson.
Dedicate the square in July, August, September. Don't do it on Memorial Day, please.
You're a good veteran.
Yep.
Okay.
The best.
No.
Okay.
That's
MBTA, just sort of throw this out because we're going to end in a moment, I'm sure. Again, we talk about money that the government spends. The MBTA just made a settlement with their workers, 4 to 5% raise per year for the next 5 years. We're talking about an organization that is
Bankrupt?
very poorly run,
Bankrupt.
below bankrupt in a way. It keeps it with being funded by people. The most of it's being funded by people who never ride on the thing, because that's where they get most of their money from taxpayers, not from fares. And again, it's why people are so unhappy with all levels of government.
Didn't the governor bring in a fellow who was supposedly an expert who said he's really had straightened things?
Nationwide search, and we've had an accident a day practically since. I don't blame him, but it's just something that no one person get his hand around.
Someone can't come in now and fix this. I mean, this. It's absurd.
Well, didn't we get new trains and this and that and everything, China, and then they broke down within a couple of months? I have to laugh.